I'm here today with Jeb Smith, who I've talked to before, who has a wonderful YouTube channel. If you guys haven't checked it out, you should totally check it out. He's a real estate agent in Southern California that tells the truth, which is such an amazing thing. Did you realize that you were like a diamond? Did you know this?
I didn't. I've never been called a diamond in my life, but I will take it. But
You are a diamond.
I like to tell the truth. It's crazy, right? In a market where fear rather spreads quicker than anything else. But yeah, the truth will set you free, right? That's what they say.
100%. So I asked Jeb to come on because I've got rental properties on the brain, and you guys know I'm talking about selling one of mine, buying another. I can't sleep at night. It's a nightmare. So I wanted to get Jeb's opinion. And for you guys who are first time buying a rental property, if you're considering buying investment property, adding more, I wanted to talk to Jeb today about how he talks to his clients about why you would buy an investment property, because there's two different ways to go with it. So Jeb, please help us all, because so many people get bad advice.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing right now is like, everything online is about making money quick, and that you can put a little bit of money down and buy an investment property, and then it cash flows and so on and so forth. Those, that can happen, but that's not typical of an investment property, right? No. So what I tell most home buyers looking to buy an investment property is, are you looking for cash flow, or are you looking for appreciation? And the reason I ask that is because it's really difficult to get both. In some cases, you can get both, right? Over the last year, we've seen home prices go crazy, even in California, where it's very difficult to get into the market. Some of these properties that were cash flowing saw record appreciation, and then you saw other areas of the country that properties haven't appreciated in nearly 20 years, but they're good cash flow properties. Those properties also saw some record appreciation. So we saw it across the board, and now everybody thinks that they can do both. And the reality is it can happen, but that's not the way to approach it, in my opinion, right? So I would say start with, which is, what are you trying to accomplish, right? Everybody wants the quick money, the appreciation, because it happens, it quickly, and it's the get rich quick scheme. Yeah. And so it looks pretty on paper, but it doesn't happen in most markets. So start with, what it is you're trying to accomplish. Here in California, as you know, Jennifer, it's difficult to buy a property that cash flows unless you have a huge amount of money to put down.
I've spent so many hours looking at the California coastline, because that's what I really wanted for the next property. And I was looking, I would have spent $1 million, $1.5 million, because the last one did well. You can't get anything, like nothing. Like I looked in your neck of the woods and I was like, oh, wow. Okay. A studio. Great. A studio with $900 a month HOAs. There's zero way this is going to cash flow. It would only be an appreciation play. And I don't know about you, I'm a little bit scared of appreciation plays right now because of how much the market went up in the last 18 months. I don't know.
Absolutely. You nailed it. While I don't think either of us think there's a big crash coming, the reality is you still, prices have appreciated a lot, right? And
like 20% in some areas.
Yeah. And at some point it's going to slow down, but cash flow is king, right? If you can get a property to cash flow, who really cares about the appreciation at the end of the day? Because you've got someone else paying the mortgage every single month. And at some point in the future, it's paid off, right? You have a property that you own free and clear, regardless of what it's worth at that point. And I'm not saying that, that's not important, but the reality is most homes aren't going to depreciate by a large amount in regardless of the market that you're in. Even at the prices that we're at now, you might see some pullback in prices at some point in the future, but we're talking, not minor and not really the focus of what I would be considering if I were considering an investment property. So if you're in one of those markets that you're looking for appreciation, you're going to typically go to the markets that are doing really, really well, right? The California, right? It's a market that's had appreciation almost every single year for the last 12 years at this point now.
California's just been climbing, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. My concern with doing another California play right now is just that how many people can afford this stuff anymore? It's just, when you're in that five, not even five, but yeah, in California. Okay. So for everyone since I'm licensed in 47 states, we've got a big audience in terms of price point, but for California, 5 to 600 is considered affordable, right?
Right.
In most
No,
places in
absolutely.
California,
Yep.
you can't find anything. So, when you start pushing up to where prices are, there's just not a lot of people, I don't know, that I'm seeing that are going to help like $1 million house become a 2 million, 2 million become 4. I know that the luxury is pretty much unstoppable because there
Right.
seems to be. And are you seeing that in your market? I mean, I know that at the high end luxury, you could still do an appreciation if you were in that 5, 6 plus category. How do you feel about that? Million guys.
That's a whole different animal. I don't sell a lot of super luxury properties, and when we're talking to the masses out here, right, we're not talking about $1 million or $2 million properties. We're talking 10, 20, $30 million in some cases, even more. And those properties are still selling quickly. I have a handful of friends that specialize in the super luxury stuff, and multiple offers on these properties. A lot of them selling in record time, when typically some of these properties sit on the market in historically 2 to 3 years it takes to sell some of these big properties, but they're selling in weeks, and people are building spec houses that that they're just looking to build and sell. And these are super luxury properties too. So that's a whole different animal. And a lot of times those properties aren't really selling based on any comparable out there, right? It's just,
it's
hey, this is my property. This is what I want for it. And it's somebody seeing the value in that. Which, today I don't think we're talking to many of those out there. If we are, hey, we would love to help you guys, but I don't think that's our audience at the moment.
I brought it up because I think it's important, because we live in a culture where we're constantly seeing, we can all see what everyone else is doing. And, a lot of times people will see those luxury properties where like someone bought it for 10 million and they just sold it for 20 million, and they'll think that you can do the same thing at a different scale. And my concern, at least moving forward, is that if you're trying to make that appreciation play, it's not necessarily realistic across the country, like, going 5 to 700 or 3 to 500, just based off of the appreciation. So I know I've gone totally random, but I just want to ask you one question on cash flow to kind of direct back. When you're talking to clients, because I feel like everyone wants to do Airbnbs now, are you seeing Airbnb horror stories? Are you seeing anyone wanting Airbnbs? Are you seeing more traditional investors? What are you seeing in your market? Also, you have a good following on YouTube, so I'm sure you get peppered with these questions.
Yeah, they come across often. The whole Airbnb thing, it's a great deal if you can get into a market, because here's the thing, and what I mean by that is a lot of these markets that have Airbnbs. Let's take Palm Springs, for example. And when I say Palm Springs, I'm talking La Quinta, I'm talking Rancho Mirage, I'm talking everywhere in the desert, right? And so if you are lucky enough to have purchased in there at the right time and gotten a license to do Airbnb, it's a great deal, right? I mean, you nailed it in most cases, and you're probably going to be grandfathered in for the most part and not have any issues there. The problem with some of these other areas, and even going in there, if you're able to get a license, is that the rules can change over time, right? Just because they allow an Airbnb now doesn't necessarily mean they're going to allow it in 6 months or a year. Maybe the HOA changes their rules on Airbnbs and says, you know what, you can't do them anymore. And now you bought a property that wasn't really a cash flow property to begin with, but you were able to get it to cash flow because of the Airbnb and the weekly rentals and people coming in for Stagecoach and some other things or what have you. And they take that away. And now you've got a property that doesn't cash flow. You're upside down every month. What do you do in that situation, right? And so what I tell people is, like, if you're looking to buy a property, right? Because I'm going to kind of take us back to our initial question, and you're looking for cash flow or what have you. When you're buying an investment property, for one, make sure you have some excess money, right? You shouldn't be using all of your money to buy that investment property, because what happens if it doesn't rent? What happens if things need to be repaired in that property? You've got to fix them. So those are all things that you need to consider. But cash flow properties, for example, California is not going to be your market in most cases, right?
No.
You're going to go probably more towards the Midwest, more towards, like, for example, I have a buddy that sells property in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fort Wayne, Indiana has been one of the best places to live
Yeah.
for the last couple of years, huge growth in employment, huge
Yep.
growth in business opportunities, hospitals, bringing doctors in. There's a lot of opportunities in that market, and it's growing, right? And that's what you want from when you're buying an investment property. You want to buy
Right.
in an area that is going to see some growth, because that growth is going to help bring the people to you, for one, right? It's everybody's not just going to disappear and then you have a rental property with no one to rent it. But at the same time, when that growth comes in and more businesses start to come in, you might at some point see appreciation from that as well. Even though that's not your main goal from a cash flow standpoint, it's nice to get that appreciation. And you want
Well, it's
a
like
property that's
Washington.
rentable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Washington was pretty blah until they got Amazon and Microsoft and everything else. And now they're California 2.0. Same with Texas. We're seeing that as well with the move over there. Now, okay. So what I took away from that is that your suggestion would be, if you're going to be looking at making an investment property, look for something that's going to cash flow with a long-term tenant. I mean, you would have that as your basis. Like if someone still wants to try Airbnb, as long as it meets the rules, great. But you want to make sure that when you're looking at that investment, you're going to be looking at those long-term numbers, not the glossy Airbnb ones. I pulled it up this morning. I'm glad you brought up Palm Springs, because Palm Springs and La Quinta were ranked as the top two markets, for Airbnbs. And it doesn't say things like, hey, you better have a license or your SOL.
Right.
So it's so great that you brought that up. So you always recommend towards the long-term renter what you'll actually make. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you want to find areas that, I'm about leverage, right? Not everyone is. And what I mean by that is if I can go to, say, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and say, for example, I had $500,000 to
Right.
buy an investment property, and I could go here in California, right? And I might be able to buy $1 million property, put $500,000 down, and that property would cash flow. And I could have a property here in California. Or maybe I could take that 500,000 and put it into 5 different rental properties in Fort Wayne, Indiana, for example, and buy $200,000 homes. I just put $100,000 down on each of them. Those properties cash flow every single month. That to me I personally think is a better play at this point, just because of where things have gone. Now, had I done that 2 years ago, I probably would have made a mistake, because California has gone up tremendously over that period of time. But I don't think you can count on that, right? You've got to go, where are the rents stable? Where is job growth stable, and that sort of thing. And base you're never going to have a risk-free investment. But, if you can get somebody paying your mortgage every month, and you're positive on the cash flow, or at least break even, at some point that property's paid off, and you basically did nothing other than put the down payment down, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So is your friend doing a ton? I mean, I'm looking for a pen in my office right now to write down Fort Wayne, Indiana, because I've been focusing on the coast around the entire United States, but that Indiana has come up as one of the great states, for the future. So is he doing a ton of investments there? Or
Yeah, actually. So, I think, I'm part of a bigger network with regards to realtors. We network and mastermind and that sort of thing. And so he has a lot of agents actually reaching out to him to invest in there versus people coming in and doing it themselves. So he's doing a lot of that type of thing. And then on the flip side, or on the same side, I guess, rather, they're also doing some sort of property management and taking care of it and all that good stuff. So I can make the referral off air here. We can
I
have a
will need his
conversation if it makes sense.
information. Yeah, if my sale goes through, I will need his information to look at that.
But what I would say with that, Jennifer, though, is that a lot of people, you've got to be comfortable investing out of state, right? You got to be comfortable with someone else managing a property. You got to be comfortable being no hands-on and that sort of thing, right? A lot of people aren't like that. And you also, need to know where you're investing, right? I mean, it's, Warren Buffett, for example, invest in things he knows, right?
Right.
A lot of people don't know these other markets. So just be careful if you are going out there to invest in some of these areas. Do your research and make sure that, whoever it is you're talking to on the other side with regards to agents and showing you property and talking about rentals and all, do your own research to make sure that what they're saying is accurate, right? Are these companies really coming there, or is it just hearsay and so on and so forth? You don't want to get in a position where everything that you've been told
is a
Hasn't
lot.
actually come to fruition yet, right? It's just something that's supposed to happen.
No, that's a great tip, because a lot of times you'll hear real estate agents say, "Oh, well, Microsoft's coming and Amazon's coming and this is coming and that's coming," and you'll look at it and you'll be like, "Wait a second, Amazon's already been there for like 7 years and it's a warehouse," and right. So it's like they're selling you this dream that's not reality. So I think I think that's a great caveat to say, be mindful, make sure you're double checking everything. And with the property management, the reason why I said, okay, I want his number is because for out of state, the thing that terrifies me is managing the property. I want nothing to do with it, so it has to be someone that is going to be, reputable. And I know that if you're working through top network agents, it's very vetted to a large extent, but it's always good to do research. What's one big mistake that you think people make, or one mistake you would say, just no matter what you do, if you're investing, just don't do this?
Ooh, this is kind of on the spot. You just threw me
I
a
know.
curveball.
I know. Revenge.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, let's go back to the beginning. Trying to get a property that trying to make it everything, right? Everybody wants the sexiness of the cash flow, the sexiness of the appreciation, and everything, right? Trying to find an investment that has all the pieces. Yes, you might be able to find them, but I think that's a mistake trying to go out there to begin with, trying to find that. Find out what it is you want. Do you want more of a riskier investment, which I think is the appreciation play, if you have the money for the down payment to start, right? Because that's going to be a big piece of the puzzle. Because if you don't have the money for the down payment, say in California, that appreciation play is not really even a play.
Well, you've got to have the monthly payments to make it up too. I mean, you're talking
Absolutely.
about 25%. We actually have a great new program where it's 25% and it's just based off the property. It's not even based off of income or assets.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's not fair. Let me put a thing. Credit score over 700, 25% down, 6 months reserves. That's it.
Oh, I like it.
I know.
I might be calling you for a loan.
I know it sounds risky, but I've been up all night, like thinking about how many, I'm like, oh my God, I can buy 40, right? There's like, but there's stuff like it can't be over 2 acres. It can't be rural. You have to already own a house, but there's all these really cool investment programs coming out. And so I'm just looking at the whole country going, there's opportunity somewhere.
No,
but then
there definitely
is in a lot of areas. And I'm like, the opportunity is dead.
So what I will follow up with that is if you want more of a stable investment, less of the risk, the cash flow way is the way to go. So, and I probably should have said that to start with, is like, if you're looking for more of the risk-free, I think cash flow is the way to go. But you also have to find good tenants, and we've seen some craziness, right? This isn't all gravy. Investing in property isn't just put your money down, somebody pays you money, and at 30 years you own a property free and clear. Over the last year, we've seen craziness where people have been able to stay in properties and not pay rent and some other crazy things. Now that's not typical, but just what's that?
Have you had that happen to any? I haven't had that happen to any clients.
I have not. Clients have been good. Okay. No issues. I know several people that own multiple properties. And when I say multiple, I know a guy that owns, I think we haven't had a conversation in the last 4 or 5 months, but he owned 47 in Nevada. And then there's another guy I know, they own 300 doors in Phoenix area. And he said that.
When did he buy?
Years ago.
Okay, because I'm like,
yeah, not recently. In fact, back in the day when I did loans, some time ago, I actually had a client that this was 2008, 2009. Actually, right before that, before the crash actually set in. So this is probably 2006, 2007. He had 70 something properties. And I can tell you, doing a loan for somebody with 7 is a nightmare.
That's too much work. That's
oh my God. It is so much work. I had to put it all in an Excel spreadsheet because you couldn't fit it into the software. And it was and even finding anybody that would do it, but that's a whole different conversation. So.
Just so you know, that 25% program, no limits on doors.
Oh, wow.
I know you're going to call me afterwards and be like, "Who's the investor?
We're going to have a conversation." No, I'm just going to just let you do the loan.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think we covered a lot of stuff. I might have to torture you and have you come back on if you don't mind to talk about 1031s
Absolutely.
if you want to delve in that headache, because that's why I'm staying awake. But I think you gave some really good, stable advice, right?
I appreciate it. Yeah. No, I mean, this is what I talk to clients about. I mean, and it might not be right for you, and that's okay. Investing in property doesn't have to be right for you. All right. I mean, just like investing in stocks or whatever doesn't necessarily have to be your thing, or Bitcoin or whatever it is. Just figure out what your thing is and make sure you're okay with it, and then, move forward.
And I think that's a great way to look at it, because investing definitely is not for everyone. I know I am a terrible landlord. I hate it so much, but because I'm doing a 1031, I'm going to take a different approach where I'm not going to buy a house and remodel it all perfectly white and, breakable so that I don't cringe every time I go in. And we're going to see if it works out better.
Great advice. Great advice.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time and coming on, and
Absolutely.
I look forward to chatting with you soon. Guys, I'm going to have a link to Jeb's channel. You should 100% check it out if you haven't. He has really good videos, much better organized than me, and you cover a lot of topics that I don't, and you're always having fun, which is great. So I really do appreciate
it. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. I'll see you soon.
All right. Adios.
Bye.